right. Good evening, everybody. How nice are those gifts that the girls put together for you? They're pretty sweet. Yeah. So we had Adeline, Natalie's daughter, in here. She made all those cool presents for you guys. So there's some little samples in there of some bone broth protein. I think there's some collagen and a few other things. So it's really nice of her to come in and do that for you guys. So I just want to help you guys out and really give you guys some things that you can take home and really start to implement some of what we're going to be talking about here today. So I just want to start off with a quick story. So this was a few years ago. I was about to travel to a seminar just like we did a few weeks ago with my team at the time. And I was online looking at plane tickets, and I found a good flight. We're going down to Florida. And I found a good flight, and I was trying to coordinate with some other friends that were coming from other parts of the country, and we're going to meet up and kind of carpool or get a rental car to get to the hotel where the seminar was. And so anyway, I found a really good price on these flights, and so I was like, well, before I book anything, I better call the boss, which is my wife, and make sure that that's going to work for her schedule, getting off work and everything, and then also just checking with some of my friends to make sure we got in at the same time. So I get on the phone with them before I hit the reservation on the computer, and I wasn't able to get a hold of them right away, but about 5-10 minutes go by, they call me back, and we're able to decide that was a good time that was going to work for everybody. And so I went to push the button to reserve those tickets on the airline, and the screen pops up and is like, sorry, those tickets are no longer available for that price. It's actually $200 more now. I was like, what? It's only been like 10 minutes. You got to be kidding me. So anyway, long story short there, I didn't want to pay the extra $200 per person to get those flights. And so I ended up having to book some other flights. I was at a less convenient time. We had to coordinate other means to get to the hotel and whatnot. And so the moral of the story, what I learned from that is that even though I was ready to make the decision at that point, time already basically made the decision for me, okay? And so because I procrastinated, just put it off 10 minutes, that was just enough for other people to go in and reserve those tickets, and it was going to cost me an extra couple $100. So that same principle really applies to our health. And so we've all probably heard the saying before, procrastination is the thief of health. And so real quick here, how many of you, I'm sure if we heard talk about nutrition tonight, how many know kind of just general idea that you should be eating better and kind of an idea what that actually looks like, right? So everybody here knows that we should be eating more fruits and vegetables and doing this sort of thing. But the problem is that many people are failing to actually do it. So a big part of tonight isn't necessarily just the nuts and bolts of what you need to be eating. We're obviously going to talk about that as well. But it's really helping you break through some of those belief systems that may be holding you back or causing you to procrastinate and stay where you are when it comes to your health or weight loss or having more energy or better sleep, whatever the case is, okay? So first of all, I just want to acknowledge you guys for being here today. So that just shows the matter, that's the first step in success is number one, showing up, okay? But everybody here, I'm sure, knows that knowledge is only powerful when you actually do what with it? You got to use it, right? So really where the rubber meets the road isn't here at the class. You're going to be getting a lot of good tips and good information, but taking this and really, taking action and really applying this to life, that's really where it's going to make the biggest impact. And so unfortunately, I can't do that for you, okay? So my hope and my goal today is really help to give you guys the tools, and then you guys just need to take those and start to implement those. Does that make sense? So we're talking about nutrition and really understanding what the purpose of nutrition is. So right now we're kind of in the midst of hurricane season. I think actually just last week there was a big hurricane that hit Texas. I lost track. Does anybody know the name of it? Which hurricane it was? No? Okay. Well, anyway, what's that? Okay. Yeah, so this picture here is actually of another town down in Texas. This is back from 2008. When Hurricane Ike came through. And so as you can see, just the whole shoreline's totally demolished, and there's just one house that's standing there. So the owners of this house happened to be years prior to that were also in another bad hurricane, and they learned the hard way of what happens to your house during a hurricane if you're using cheap low quality materials. And so they went above and beyond to really build their house as strong as it could be to withstand the forces of hurricane winds and pounding rains and everything. And so because they did that, their house was the only one standing of all the other ones that just got totally, wiped out, okay? And so your body is the house that you live in, okay? And so what the food that you're putting into your body is what your body actually uses to build all your cells out of, okay? So if you're putting in Coca-Cola and Twinkies and Big Macs and Taco Bell, do you think your body's going to be very strong and resilient and be able to, withstand the flu or measles or the whatever they're trying to scare us about in the news next week? Do you think your body's going to be able to handle those sorts of things? Probably not. It's going to be weak. It's not going to be a very strong body. So we all understand that if you want a strong house or you want like a car that's going to last long, it's better to get a good quality car versus a cheap car that's probably going to break down a lot faster, right? So the same principle really applies to our body, but we have this totally backwards for some reason in our community, that we take better care of our cars or our house or some of these things that you can replace or a lot easier to repair than we actually do our bodies, right? Isn't that crazy? Like, people get all upset that they got to spend an extra 50 cents to get something that's organic when it's it's exactly what your body's building your cells out of, and they'll spend hundreds of dollars or $6 on a expensive cup of coffee or something like that. So really we have it totally backwards, but it's because of that that's causing our bodies to really get sick at an astounding rate right now in America. And so people get sick because putting in low quality foods. What are most people doing at that point? Where do they go? They go to the doctor, right? So I want to bring this up real quick. So right now, unfortunately, our healthcare system shouldn't be called the healthcare system. It's really a sick care system. And so the unfortunate thing, if you actually read through parts of the Hippocratic Oath, which is an oath that medical doctors take as they're getting through med school in terms of how they should take care of their patients, part of what it says in there is that I will apply dietetic measures for the benefit of the sick according to my ability and judgment. I will keep them from harm and injustice. Okay, now, many of you, I'm sure, probably been in to, see your doctor somewhat recently, maybe go in annually for your, annual physical or whatnot. How many times have they sat down with you and really, heard what you're going through with your health and really made some, in-depth recommendations on how to change your lifestyle and what foods to be eating and how to lose weight? How many have had that done to them before? Okay, one person. So one person in, the whole room right now. So that's the sad thing, is it's not that they're bad people or anything, but when you actually look at what they're learning about in medical school, only 29% of medical schools offer their students the recommended 25 hours of nutrition education. So 25 hours isn't very much. I've been studying this for, over 10 years now. 25 hours is like, I could do that much in just continuing education over a weekend course. And what they're really learning is, the basic food groups and, the food pyramid. And it's not really like the most cutting edge, up to date, information when it comes to nutrition and health that's really out there. And so most of their time in school is spent on, okay, here, what symptom do you have? And so based on that symptom that you have, we're going to do what? We're going to write you a prescription for this pill to counteract whatever the symptom is. 75% of doctors' visits end with a prescription medication. Half of Americans are regularly taking a prescription. The average is about 4. And this is the thing that's really concerning for me. So there's been, from 97 to 2016, there's been an 85% increase in the number of prescriptions that have been filled. And the vast majority of that is not for adults, but who's it for? For kids. So that's the whole goal, really, of the pharmaceutical companies, is if they can get kids on these medications, the sooner the better. Guess what they create? They create customers for life, okay? And that's exactly what they want, because they start taking one medication, well, now they're on medications to treat the side effects of the medications that they're on, and really it's kind of downhill from there. And so really they're not really following. So Hippocrates, many of you probably heard of him before, so he's known as the father of modern medicine. And so back then, there was a whole different approach to medicine than there is right now. And so he said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. So there's a lot more powerful things in nature, in the foods, and just in these lifestyle things that has been in our environment and around us that are more strong and potent and safer than a lot of the medications that we're taking on a regular basis. So just taking a prescription, just so you guys are aware, puts over 2 million people in the hospital every single year just from adverse reactions, and it's the number 4 cause of death is for properly prescribed drugs, and that's probably quite a bit higher than that, but only about 5 to 6% of these are actually even reported. And which one?
That one right there about the.
So there's about 2 million adverse reactions putting people in the hospital every year, and the number, and it's actually, like I said, it's usually a lot higher, but there's at least 100,000 people that die from that's from properly prescribed medications. So given at the right time for the right symptom, that's not even including the opioid crisis that we're in right now and everything else.
That's not the vaccine.
That's not, no. Yeah. Yeah. Properly, yeah. So it's the number 4 killer. Yeah. So why isn't there more awareness about this in the media? Well, because the drug companies, they own the media, and so they don't want this getting out there. And so there's a report that comes out every couple 2-3 years or so, the Commonwealth Fund report. This is from 2015, and so they look at key benchmark areas. They compare the U.S. to other countries like Sweden and France and Germany and places along those lines. And so year after year after year, America ranks, guess where? Dead last. Yeah. So despite the most healthcare spending, Americans are worse in health, die earlier, suffer from more diseases than other wealthy nations. So these are some of the key things. So we spend more than 2 times more money on our healthcare than any other country. We have more elective and non-necessary procedures performed. Why would they do that? It's because a lot of it, our system is really it's a business, okay? So a lot of times I've had a number of patients in here that they've met with several surgeons before they come into our office, and from getting their spine corrected, they've been able to avoid, surgeries or, knee replacements or things like that. Lowest life expectancy, highest rate of suicides. That's probably even, much higher now with everything we've been dealing with the last 6 months. Highest hospitalizations for preventable illnesses and highest rate of avoidable deaths. So the nutshell here is if our approach was working, then we wouldn't be, seeing these kind of results. So we all have probably heard the definition of insanity before is, guess what? It's doing the same things over and over and over again, expecting a different result. So we have a choice to make, okay? Do we want to live in this system that is clearly it's not working and rely on them to get us healthy? Or do you want to take responsibility for your own health and shift and really put the right foods into your body, take care of your spine and nerve system, and make some of these other changes? And really that's the best approach, because that's what's going to truly get you well and what really actually works, okay? So what we got to talk about right now is kind of sorting through some of those beliefs that many of you have that have been stopping you or holding you back from making some of these changes, okay? So number one, a common thing that we hear is that, hey doc, I'd really love to eat healthy, but it's just so expensive. Okay, and there's some truth to that. Buying organic and getting some of these things is going to be more expensive than getting a bunch of processed foods or eating at McDonald's every day. But when you look at the long-term effects, so cheap food is not really cheap. So has anybody seen the price of cancer drugs lately? So the average cost is anywhere from about $4,500 to $10,000 a month. Okay. So 25% of cancer patients use all or most of their savings on treating their disease, which 1 out of 3 Americans get diagnosed with cancer. So anybody in here, somebody that has heart disease or had a heart attack? Did you have a question? Or you?
No.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So the direct or an indirect cost of a severe heart attack is about $1 million. That's about $750,000 for less severe, which 1 out of 2 people get that. Just for a couple, for their co-pays and their co-insurance, once they reach 65, you're going to need about $260,000 just to cover your copays after you actually get sick if you're following the standard health approach that we have here in the U.S. Anybody having a family member in a nursing home or assisted living right now? Okay, how much does that cost a month? That's a lot. Yeah, and guess what? Insurance doesn't cover that. So it's anywhere from $50,000 to $90,000, plus, depending on the bells and whistles of the place. If you get diagnosed with diabetes, it's about $14,000 a year, so an extra $1,000 a month just to treat your diabetes. So you can buy a lot of healthy organic foods for an extra $1,000 a month. Plus, you have a better quality of life when you're 60, 70, 80 years old. You're still able to go biking with your grandkids, go on hikes, do the things that everybody wants to do, but they're not making the decision to take action for their health now, and so they wait and put it off and put it off and put it off, and before they know it, they're sick, and now they're trying to scramble to actually get their health back. And so that's exactly what we don't want to happen. And so just realizing that your health is your most important investment. If what we do here, with the chiropractic care, this is one of the things I say at our Healing Faster class, if just from you paying attention and taking care of your spine, if we keep you out of an assisted living home just for 1 year, that pays for your chiropractic care for your entire life, okay? So, and then you go, in addition to that, just eating the right foods and putting what your body needs to stay healthy, that's going to help you prevent these things, which is huge. So another thing that comes up is people just get stuck. They just, they try to make the changes, and just can't really break through, and just kind of quit and give up. It's just too hard. I can't do this. I can't follow through. I got too much going on. And so there's a story. There's this guy by the name of R.U. Harvey, and this is back in the gold rush days. And so he's all gung-ho and going to go out and strike it rich. And he ended up, getting a bunch of equipment. They found a good spot. They started digging and digging and digging, and ended up, hitting gold. And so things are going really, really well for him for a while. And then, they're able to pay off their equipment, and we're, really starting to make some money. And all of a sudden, the gold just vanished. And they kept digging, and they kept digging, and they kept digging, and there's no more gold. And so finally, they just got totally frustrated, like, all right, we're done with this. We're going to go do something else because all the gold's gone. So what they ended up doing is they sold off all their land and all their equipment, and the person that bought it from them ended up having a surveyor come out to look at the land, and he's like, yep, okay, you're just going to move over 3 feet this way and start digging over there. And so that's what they did, and it ended up being like the biggest gold, I don't know what you call it, gold mine or whatever that existed, and they made millions and millions of dollars just from moving their digging over 3 feet. Okay, and so a lot of times, how many of you have tried making these changes and you just hit a wall and just haven't been able to get through and really stay consistent with it? Be honest. Okay, so we've all done that. We've all been there. So what I want to go over right now is, rather than you just quitting and giving up because you're getting frustrated, give you guys some tools that you can use. Can you grab me one of the question sheets, just so I'm not skipping over stuff? No, not that one. The one that they're filling in. Yeah. So did everybody get number 1? So food is the building block for your new cells. So what I want to go over right now is just some what we call the 4 nutrition transition rules. Okay, so these are rules that they kind of bridge the gap from where you are right now to where you want to go and make that transition a little bit easier. Okay, so number 1 is what we call the vacation rule. All right, so let's just say, your thing is ice cream. You just can't get enough of it. You really love ice cream. So what do you think happens if you're like, okay, this is the week. I'm not gonna eat any more ice cream. I'm just gonna eat salads all day. What are you thinking about all week long? You're thinking about ice cream. Yep. So the more that you kind of eliminate that from your normal routine, if that's something that you're used to, that's all that you're thinking about, and you want more of it. And so that just makes it very draining for you psychologically. And then you just give in and cave, and then you're like, oh, the heck with it. I just had some ice cream, so I'm just gonna go back to what I was doing before. It's just easier. So what the vacation rule is, and so say if you really like ice cream, So you're going to be eating healthy for most of the week, so 90% of the time, and then you give yourself a meal, or you give yourself, one day of the week that you get to actually enjoy your ice cream. So it gives you something to kind of look forward to, but you still aren't totally depriving yourself of that one thing that you truly love and crave. Does that make sense? So number 2 is the replacement rule. So that's taking something that, again, talking about ice cream, or maybe for some of you it might be like soda or something like that. So you take whatever that is, and you find something that's similar to replace that with. Okay, so if it's ice cream, one of the things that we like in our house is there's a chocolate, coconut, kind of avocado mousse that you can make, and it's phenomenal. And honestly, if you put it in the freezer, it tastes just like ice cream, and it's really good. So I like that. If if you like soda, you can switch from maybe having just a Coke or Pepsi to switching to maybe having like Zevia, or you get a sparkling water, put some essential oils or something like that in there. So you're still kind of getting the bubbly flavor, but it's and it's kind of feels like you're having a soda, but it's a lot healthier for you. Does that make sense? Number 3 is the addition rule. So again, going back to ice cream. If your thing is ice cream, you're not going to totally deprive yourself of that ice cream right away. Eventually, as you start to make these changes and stick with it longer, it's going to be easier. You're not going to really necessarily want the ice cream. For me, growing up, I used to, love Mountain Dew, and a lot of other things. But now I can't even tell you the last time I had one. And if I did, I'd probably like gag or something. But the addition rule, so basically if you're going to have that ice cream, you're having something healthy before the ice cream. So it does a couple things. Number 1 is you're getting healthy nutrients into your body, even though you're still going to be getting the sugar and stuff from the ice cream. But since you're eating it before you have the ice cream, guess what you're going to have less of? You're going to have less ice cream because you're getting, you're eating the apple, or you're having a salad, or you're having whatever beforehand. So you're going to be a little bit more full than you would have been if you were just eating the ice cream. So you tend to eat less. Does that make sense? The 4th thing is the dress-up rule. So again, if you're going to have ice cream, then at least you can put some healthy stuff on the ice cream. So adding some nuts, or maybe some berries, or things like that, some coconut flakes or something, to really make sure that your body's at least getting some healthy nutrients with the bad stuff. And that's going to really help build your body up and give you some actual nutrients with the foods that you're eating. Okay, anybody have any questions on those? Okay, myth number 3. Yeah.
Like for me, I think it's a lot easier. Like start like 5 years ago, I stopped drinking soda, and it was my New Year resolution.
Yeah.
Then I said no more sauces, no more sugar the next one, and no more chicken the next one,
Yeah.
no more pork or beef, whatever.
Yeah.
Every New Year, that's my New Year
Yep.
resolution.
That's awesome.
That worked. I just stop, and then because for some people maybe it's easier like that. For some people maybe prefer to do the vacation and the food.
Yeah. So some people.
Just like
Yeah, some people are good with that, doing it cold turkey. It sounds like you are. That's awesome. A lot of people aren't like that, and that's why only about 6% of people hit their resolutions every year. So, but myth number 3 is oftentimes people will kind of associate some of these challenges that they're dealing with, whether it be being overweight or heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes. It's just part of my genetics. So the thing is that if you look at genetic evidence, DNA evidence, our bodies and our DNA has not changed hardly at all in like 40,000 years, 0.02%. So what has happened just in the last 50 years with disease rates? They gone up or down? They gone up, yeah. So obesity, heart disease, cancer, you fill in the blank. So all those things have gone up, and so that's 50 years is even less than the average person's lifespan right now. And so how in the world can it be just due to our genetics? It has a lot more to do with what we call epigenetics, okay? And so they've done also, the National Institutes of Health has researched identical twins, and they found that only about 5 to 10% of your genes really, determines like a lot of these health outcomes and illnesses that people deal with. Most of it's epigenetic, so your environment. So here's the good news: is guess who has control over a lot of these factors in your environment? You do. So you have control over the foods that you're putting in your body. You have control over the water that you're drinking. You have control over a lot of these things. And so that's pretty powerful. And there's a study that was done by Duke on just to kind of show how important this concept is of the foods that you're putting in your body. So there's a gene called the agouti gene. And with mice, it causes the mouse to, which normally would be kind of brownish fur. And when this gene is present and active, then the mice have like an orangish color fur, and they tend to overeat, so they end up gaining weight and have a lot of the other health issues that typically come with being overweight and things like that with mice. But anyway, so what they did in the study is they did one thing: is they changed the nutrition of the mother mouse actually through so during prior and during the pregnancy, and guess what happened? So she had perfectly normal mice, even though she actually had the agouti gene. So the nutrition, the foods that she was putting in her body was better, so it turned off the bad genes and turned on the good genes, so she's able to have perfectly normal mice. And so that's, if anything, if your moms or for your kids, like a lot of these issues or genetics are getting passed down generations, and a lot of it has to do with our environment, how we're taking care of ourselves. Those things are getting passed on to our kids and onto their kids' kids. So if it's not just about you and helping you hit your goals, think about what it's actually doing for the next generations if you don't actually make these changes. So myth number 4 is, I'm just too busy. I don't have time to cook like that. I don't have time to go to the grocery store. I just don't have time. So being too busy, it's a myth. People really make the time for what they value and what's important to them, okay? So actually right now is probably the best time, of any time in the past to, have these, delivery services and things available that save you time. You just go online and put in the cart what you want to do and drive over to Fred Meyer, and they'll load it up for you. You don't even have to go in the store. So there's a lot of things that you can be doing. There's meal planning apps. One of the ones that we've used in our family in the past, I think it's called True Food or something like that. Real Foods. I'd have to ask my wife. I can't remember the name of. She obviously uses it. I don't. But it's pretty neat because you can go through and pick out recipes, and based off the meals that you select in the app, then it pre-populates a shopping list for you. And so that's really a big time suck if you do a lot of that for your house, is figuring out here's the recipes and here's what I got to get from the store. So it pre-populates a list for you, so everything's just right there, and you just go to the store and get it. So it's pretty neat. I think it's called Real Food or True. I'd have to double check with my wife. I honestly forgot, but yeah, if you ask me later, I'll let you know. But there's delivery services, crock pots, pressure cookers. Anybody hear about Instapot? So we use that quite a bit. That's an awesome tool to be using, and it really speeds everything up. So really, if you look at all the things that we have available for us right now, there's ways that you can get around and create time to be healthy and eat this way. So it's not that bad. All right. So we all know we're kind of referencing the house earlier that was survived the hurricane. So the most important part of your house, if you want your house to last a long time, is the what? The foundation, right? So you got to get the foundation right, then other things fall in place from there. So I want to go through, before we kind of get into more of the nuts and bolts on what you need to be eating and when, things like that, give you just some principles. If you start to align yourself with these and apply these things, it makes shopping and going out to eat and everything a lot easier. So number 1 is try to grow your own or raise your own if possible. Okay, so the reason why that is important is, number 1 is it can save you quite a bit of money if you have your own chickens. And right now I was just on the phone with we have a farmer that we use to order, so I don't raise my own, but we order our cow every year. So it's grass-fed, grass-finished, and it's a great way. So it's only like $3.50 a pound for awesome quality, healthy meat. Whereas if you went to the store, you're probably going to be paying $8-9 for the same stuff. So, but there's a lot of deceptive marketing out there when it comes to foods and labeling and packaging and things like that these companies will use to try to make people think that the foods are healthy, but in all reality, they're actually not. So your best bet is to grow your own, raise your own as much as you can. Number 2 is buy organic as much as possible. So yeah, it's a little bit more money, I understand, but your health is worth it. And the cool thing is that if we get more people demanding organic, anybody remember, Econ 101? Guess what happens to the prices? They come down, yeah. So the more and more people that we get, wanting organic, then there's more competition, and the prices start to come down, which is exactly what we want. But if you're not, if it's not at that point for you right now, there's something that we call the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. Okay, and so these are foods, and we're going to actually, for people that implement what we're talking about here today, we're going to be sending out this grocery shopping guide as well, which has those in there. So there's certain foods that are more important to get organic with than others. So for example, conventional strawberries. Anybody take a guess at how many pesticide residues are on just a conventional strawberry? They're number 1, exactly, yeah. So do you know how many on average are on there? 20 different pesticides residues are on conventional strawberries. So those would obviously be part of the Dirty Dozen and more important to get organic with versus avocados or things like that tend to have maybe a thicker skin and they don't use as much as that stuff on. So read the labels. So you want to be trying to have as minimal ingredients on the food as possible. Ideally things that you can pronounce. If it sounds like it's made in a laboratory someplace, it's probably not going to be putting it into your body, okay? So we like to keep it simple. Avoiding processed foods. Those are things that usually come in packages and again have a lot of the ingredients that you can't pronounce. But there's a study that they did in Cell Metabolism that found that processed foods, consuming a lot of those, cause weight gain, affects your hormones, and a lot of times they put what's called excitotoxins in there. So especially like in certain chips and whatnot. MSG, they have other ones that they put in there, which basically it tricks the brain into thinking that it's still hungry, so you eat more and you eat more and you eat more, and that's exactly what they want because they want to sell more chips. So, and then also having a plan. So you never want to go into the grocery store without a plan. If you're like me, my wife sends me to the store and I get everything that's not on the list and all the other stuff. So I forget whatever she sent me there for. So these are just kind of key foundational principles that you want to keep in mind. So does anybody remember back in the 80s, 90s, learning about the food pyramid back in school? So you see here the base of the pyramid, you have all your pastas, greens, rice, cereal, all that kind of stuff. Well, how's that really worked out for us? Not too good. Yeah. So right now the U.S. we're the most obese country on the planet. Basically, 1 out of 3 people get diagnosed with diabetes. Over 2/3 of our population is overweight or obese. So a lot of it has the fact to do with, this is what our food pyramid looks like. And all those things at the bottom of the pyramid, basically within seconds, start to get converted and broken down in the body into sugar. Okay, and sugar leads to weight gain, leads to obesity, leads to diabetes, Alzheimer's, all these things that we're dealing with majorly here in the U.S. So this is what it should look more like. So the base of the pyramid, having more kind of fruits and vegetables. Then you have your meats, healthy fats, things like that. Why do you think fruits are up here at the top? Yep. So even though fruits, they have a lot of fiber, which is good, which slows the absorption of the sugar in your bloodstream, they also tend to still be, a lot of them high in sugar. There's certain ones that are lower, like berries, Granny Smith apples, things like that, that if you're trying to lose weight or get your hormones back in balance, you can still have some of those. But right now, I was just reading today that the average American who follows the standard American diet gets about 65% of their calories is from the carbohydrates, and it's 55% of that is actually processed foods. So they only get about 6% of their diet is healthy fruits and vegetables. So anybody see a problem with that? So what you ideally want to shoot for is, as far as your goal for caloric intake, is want to shoot for right around 70% of your body or your caloric intake on a daily basis should come from healthy fats. So emphasis on the healthy fats, okay? And then protein should be about 20 to 25%. Kind of depends a little bit on how active you are, if you're working out a lot, things like that. And then 5 to 10% also from healthy carbs. So healthy carbs are like things like you see here on the base of the pyramid. So things like vegetables, things along those lines. So that's ideally what you want your foods and caloric intake to be looking like. So what I'm going to go over right now is just give you guys 3 changes. I try not to overwhelm you guys too much with here, do this, here, do this, here, do this, because then you leave and how much do you actually do? 0. So just 3 things. If you can do these 3 things, then I know that you're going to see a huge improvement when it comes to losing weight or having more energy or whatever it is that your goals are. So number 1, it's eliminating the sugars and things that turn to sugar. So the average American right now consumes at least 53 teaspoons of sugar a day. So that's about 140, 160 pounds per year. So most of the time when we talk about sugar, people just think about the white stuff that comes in the little packets. But again, where are people getting all the sugar from?
bread.
It's not from there. It's from bread, pastas, rice, ketchup, salad dressings. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. So they even put sugar in table salt sometimes these days. So all that sugar is wreaking havoc on your hormones. Cancer cells have 8 to 16 times the receptors for sugar, which is why they use that in a PET scan, which lights up the cancer cells. They can see that on there because they're fueled off of sugar. Heart disease, they're calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes in the brain because sugar inflames your brain and leads to diabetes, but also things like ADD, a lot of these behavioral issues that we're seeing with a lot of kids these days. So eliminating the sugars and things that turn to sugar as much as possible. Number 2, removing the toxins. So there is a lot of toxins. So just 3,000 added to our food supply, and there's another additional 10,000 used in processing and preserving the foods that we're consuming. And only a small fraction of these toxins that they're putting into our food system have ever been tested long-term for safety on humans. So it's actually about of the pesticides that they use, I think only about 10% or so have actually been tested long-term, how that affects humans. And this is what we're spraying all over our foods. You just look at pictures of people that are applying this stuff onto their crops. What are they wearing? What kind of suits are they wearing? They're wearing hazmat suits. Yeah. So if they have to spray this stuff in a hazmat suit, and this is the food that you're actually eating, it's probably not going to be very good, for your body and very healthy for you. So we ingest, just in chemicals, about the equivalent of a full-on adult person in chemicals every year. And a lot of these are in like the dyes, preservatives, pesticides, foaming agents. But these are some of the worst ones. And so these are ones that you really want to be aware of and avoiding as much as you can. So it's the processed meats. So of anything, if I tell people to go organic with one thing, it's usually number 1, the meats. And so why do you think that's so important? The hormones, yeah. So you're not just what you're eating, you are what you're eating ain't. Okay? And so right now, all these toxins that, they're the hormones and the pesticides and the GMO, foods that they're feeding them and everything, all those toxins are getting stored in where? In those animals. And that gets stored in the fat. Yep. So when you're going into the store and just getting some conventional meat or whatever, you're getting a high concentration of a lot of these, toxic chemicals. And so that's why number 1 is, the meats. And actually, especially the processed meats, so like your sausages and things like that. In fact, they've deemed those kind of processed meats unsafe for human consumption over long term. The World Cancer Research Fund did that. So kids that eat hot dogs on a regular basis have 9 times the risk for lymphoma, which is actually the number 1 cause of cancer in young kids. So sweetened beverages, that's a big one. So much of our calories that we take in during the day isn't actually from foods, it's from sodas and these fruit juices, which are just loaded up with sugars. Pretty much all the stuff that's on here that's bad is in a lot of these drinks. And then the genetically modified crops. So does anybody know what the top culprits are for GMO crops? What corn, soy, yeah. So this is this is something that's key to understand. So we're try to find cheap food. So the reason the food is so cheap is because these are the crops that the government actually subsidizes the farmers for. So that's how the price is lower, because the government is paying the farmers to actually make you sick. So that's how messed up it is. So number 3, replace sugar and these bad fats with healthy fats. So these are the bad fats you want to be avoiding. So canola oil, margarine, the conventional meats like we're talking about, conventional dairy, which causes your body to be very acidic. So all those things cause congestion in the cells. So all your cells are surrounded by what we call a lipid bilayer. Anybody remember that from Biology 101? So if the healthy oxygen and nutrients can't get into the cell, and the waste and toxins can't get out of the cell because of the membranes made of all these bad fats, then you get what's called cellular congestion. So all these toxins start to build up. Your body can't use those, burn those fat cells for energy, and it causes weight loss resistance, and it causes just major inflammation. So you want to replace those with some of these healthy nuts, grass-fed meats like I was talking about, avocados, coconut, chia seeds. All that stuff is really good, healthy fats to be putting in there. Chia seeds, yeah, they're loaded up. Yeah, they're excellent source of like omega-3s. Okay. Yeah. Hemp seeds is another good one. So hemp has a little bit more omega-6s than 3s. So you want to try to get all the omega-6, 3, and 9. But most people, just if you're following the standard conventional diet right now in America, have much higher omega-6s than 3s, which causes to be a little bit more pro-inflammatory and leads to a lot of the heart disease and high blood pressure and things like that. Okay, so these are some of the key foundational supplements that if you're just kind of looking to get started, I would start with these ones, okay? So number 1, hands down, the most important thing that most people need to be taking is vitamin D3, okay? So there's, just talking about we're getting into flu season now, and with the whole COVID situation right now, there's a number of studies that have been coming out showing that 100% of ICU admissions for COVID, the people had low vitamin D, okay? If they had a vitamin D level of 30 or less, you're 12 to 19 times more likely to have serious adverse effects from COVID, okay? And so vitamin D, especially where our days are getting shorter right now, and so you really want to be ramping your vitamin D up and making sure that you keep your levels as high as possible, and that's going to minimize your risk of getting sick during the winter, but it also helps with depression, helps with weight loss, helps with a lot of other metabolic processes in the body. So this is number one thing people should be taking. Number 2 is getting a good quality protein. So the protein are, again, kind of like the building blocks for your cells. So if you're getting, again, a cheap, low quality protein, just, the biggest jug that you can get at Costco, yeah, it's cheap, but, you're really, when it comes to supplements, better quality is better because you're not going to be able to digest and assimilate that. So number 1, they're using conventional, dairy, which is very acidic. Your body can't break it down. They have a lot of fillers in there, and usually they have, artificial sweeteners and things like that to make it taste better because it's really not a very good, quality product. So what I personally use, and a lot of people rant and rave about here in the office, is the keto protein. So it's got the proper amounts of healthy fats, but also protein from bone broth, which, is anybody here familiar with bone broth and the benefits of that? So it helps with your skin, healing your gut, helps keeping your immune system strong. It's also got adaptogen herbs in there, which manages your stress response, so you can keep your blood sugar levels balanced. So it's excellent. So I put it in my smoothies, and also actually we give it to our kids. I have 2 boys, 4 and 2, and we haven't really given it to our 2-year-old yet, but our 4-year-old loves it, getting into the winter when everybody wants hot chocolate and stuff. So you just put a little warm water in there, and it tastes, tastes great, just like hot chocolate. So and it's healthy. So that's that. Nanogreens. Now we talked about most people are getting their nutrients from carbs and from processed foods. So people just have a hard time these days getting enough greens in, just eating salads all day long. And our soils are kind of depleted from what they were years ago. So that's why it's so important to be, supplementing in some of these certain areas. But one thing that I use is this powdered green. So 1 scoop of this stuff is the equivalent of about 10 servings of fruits and vegetables. So you throw it, a couple scoops in your smoothies in the morning. You can mix some in your water throughout the day. It helps keep your body alkaline, but you're also getting, a lot of those, veggies and nutrients, pre and probiotics and things like that to help your body stay healthy throughout the day. And so that's excellent. So that's something that I do. And then also making sure that you have a good probiotic. So most of people, their gut and their microbiome is pretty messed up. And so what is one of the things that they put in our water right now to kill all the bugs in the water? Chlorine, right? So if you don't have a good filter at your house to take out the chlorine, then that water that you're drinking is actually killing all the bugs in your gut. And that's affecting your body's ability to digest the foods. And so when it comes to probiotics, you want to make sure that you're getting a high dose, and it's soil-based organism. So you can go to like Fred Meyer, you can go to some of these other supplement places, and you'll see some probiotics in the refrigerator. So if they're in the refrigerator, chances are they're probably not a very hearty probiotic. And so what do you think is going to happen when you ingest that and it has to go in your body and through your stomach acid to actually get to your gut where you want it to get? It's going to kill it. Yeah, so it's not even really going to serve the purpose that you're wanting it to serve. And so that's why we don't have the ones that we have here, we don't have to refrigerate them. They're super hardy, bacteria, and they can actually make it to your gut and help your body digest, keep your immune system strong, things like that. So those are some of the the basic things to get started with. Some of you might have other questions. You can ask me after. But a lot of times people think that you are what you eat. Is that true or is that false? What do you guys think? True? It's a trick question.
I guess you have to do a lot of other things besides eat.
Exactly. Yeah. So you are what you digest and actually assimilate. Okay. And so if your body is not, if your brain is not communicating, getting the messages out to your organs of digestion, actually within, as soon as you put food into your mouth, your brain recognizes that and immediately it changes your body's physiology to start producing, the enzymes and the proper hormones to help your body actually start to digest and break down that food to turn that food into your cells like we talked about. So if I cut all these nerves going out to your stomach, guess what happens to your stomach or your colon? It dies. Yeah, it's not going to move the food through. You're not going to be able to digest those things properly. And this is why all the time we have people that come in here dealing with constipation issues or Crohn's disease or IBS or whatever the case may be, and they also have back pain. Well, the same nerves that are causing their back pain down here are also the same exact ones that go to those organs, really influencing how well they're working, but nobody's ever looked there, okay? So what can really cause that is when your body or your spine gets out of alignment, that's called a subluxation, okay? And so that interferes with the messages from the brain getting out to those organs wherever they're going. So down here in the lower back we're talking about, those go out to your digestive system, they go to your reproductive organs. I was just sitting down with a new patient this afternoon who he's having a lot of back pain, but he's also having pain in his genital area as well. So the same nerves that come off his lower back are going out to that part of his body. And so I was like, hey, this could be causing that. And he's like, he's Hispanic person, didn't speak a lot of English, but I was able to kind of connect the dots for him and really understand that it could all be coming from his spine. So up here in the neck, that can cause thyroid issues, high blood pressure, allergies, numbness in your hands. And so when we have these symptoms, a symptom is like your body's check engine or warning light coming on to let you know that there's a problem there. Okay, so here in America, when people have headaches or colds or high blood pressure, what are people doing about this warning check engine light coming on? They're covering it up. Yeah. So they're covering it up with what? With Tylenol, with a medication. Yeah. So that is no different than just taking some duct tape, putting it over the light, pretending the light's not on, and just going along your way. Because, I mean, you're not fixing the cause, you're really just treating the symptoms. And in all reality, it just leads to more and more issues like we talked about earlier, which the number one place to start to look then is the spine. So this is a true story of a patient that came in here. So she was in her mid 20s and had really bad sciatic issues, chronic migraines that last for days, knee pain, terrible menstrual problems, and just from the outside, she was pretty much the picture of health and pretty good shape. She could did essential oil. She could come in and like probably teach the nutrition class here. Like she thought that she knew it all, but she's still very sick, and she was actually seeing a chiropractor here in the area for over a year. Okay, the problem is that she was only going in once a month when she hurt. Okay, and so that wasn't enough to really address and correct the problem, and so she ended up being referred in here after about a year because she wasn't making any progress. And so we did an x-ray on her. So she had originally lost some of the curve. The curve in her neck just got worse because she wasn't really doing what she needed to do to actually fix it, just putting a Band-Aid on her pain every single month until the pain came back. And so we found this. We started to set her up on a corrective care program, and in over about 4 months, she went from 9 degrees up to 31 degrees, getting that arc of life back in her neck, less damage on her nervous system, so her body's able to heal and function better. So how do you think she's feeling at that point? Much better, yeah. So her menstrual problems go away. To this day, still no more migraine headaches. Her knee pain, and I never once touched her knee, but we were working on her spine. Knee pain goes away. She can actually go to her kids' soccer games and stand on the sideline and not be miserable. So here's another patient here who came in and never thought that she would be able to ride her bike again. She had a ton of neck and upper back pain. She was on pain medications for that, and also had struggled with asthma. So one of the cool things is that once we start to fix the spine and help people get healthy, then one healthy habit leads to another healthy habit leads to another healthy habit. So she was in so much pain, she wasn't able to do, she wasn't able to work out, she wasn't able to go biking, she wasn't able to do those kind of things. And so we started to help her with her pain and get her body and her things working better. And so she started going back to the gym again and biking again, started to implement some of the the nutrition changes that we're talking about here with you guys. And she's lost over 80 pounds. She just had her checkup at her work not too long ago, and for her physical or whatever. And they told her her asthma is totally gone. She's had that for years and years and years. And so that's it's just amazing to see that. So I share these because there's no difference in these people and their stories. The same healing ability that's in them is also in you guys. Okay, so it's just a matter of taking action, applying this. If you're here and you haven't had your spine and nerve system checked, this is number one. It's the foundation for everything. Okay, it doesn't matter what supplements, what foods you're putting in. If your body can't digest those because there's disconnect in your nervous system, that does make a difference. So what we do is we look at your posture, we do a nerve scan, we do x-rays. Normally that's $160 to $200 to have that done. If you're a guest here today, we're going to give you an opportunity to do that just for $27. That covers all that testing that we do on the first appointment and your report of findings. We can go over what's going on with you and what we need to do to, if there is issues there, what we need to do to help you out. Okay? So you can see the front if you want to get that scheduled. And just a couple quick announcements here before we wrap things up. So next month we have our Healing Faster class. So for those of you that are just kind of getting started, this is a really important class to come to where we go over all the exercises, the purpose behind that, and helping you understand the big picture. But also starting next month, we're doing a kind of a cool contest here in the office. The girls thought this up, so it's no tricks, just treats. So if you refer a friend, coworker, somebody from church, they can get their nerve system checked for the same deal that we're talking about here tonight. But we have a farmer that's here in our office, and he has pumpkins, he has all that kind of stuff that people like this time of year. And so we've worked out an agreement with them that will give you guys the person that you refer in a voucher to go to his farm, which is just right over here in Green Acres. And you can go there and pick out a pumpkin, and then you guys can go, carve it with your family and have a nice, pumpkin for Halloween or for pumpkin seeds or whatever. And then if you take some pictures, then we're going to be and post it on our Facebook page, or you can bring it in. We're going to have a little contest. And then the gals are going to send you some healthy smoothie recipes to help you continue along to make some of these changes. Okay? So, and if this is your first time to one of our classes, we always do special discounts. Just want to reward you guys for taking time to be here. So if there's any of the supplements that I talked about or other ones over there that you're interested in or want to get started with, we do a 15% off discount if you get 3 or more. It bumps up to 20%. And then for those people that are implementing this and taking action and make a purchase, then we're going to be sending you the grocery shopping guide, which has a lot of the rules that we talked about. It's also got some other things on label reading, the Dirty Dozen, just kind of some budget tips for when you're at the grocery store. Cool. So we'll send this to you via email. For those of you who aren't able to print it out, just let us know. We can just print out an extra one for you here in the office too. So, any questions? Was that helpful for you guys? Cool. So, well, thanks for coming, and that's all we have.